There we go.
Oh, sweet. How are you, man?
Good. Yourself?
Pretty good.
I had live call before.
Oh, you haven't?
No, never joined.
Yeah. I've only done like a handful of them really, just with a few other people. Pretty simple. So there's on the bottom there is a little question icon too. So when they ask questions, it should put like a little red dot on there. So it's like
Okay.
bottom right hand corner. You'll see that has a little question mark. Um, so that just tells us that we have questions, but I can always just read them off and stuff too. Um, but other than that, pretty informal. Let's see this over a little bit. Be right in my face. I'm not good at lighting. My lighting game is low
Hey, me
priority,
neither. I'm the anti-technology guy.
dude. I'm like the anti-influencer here.
Yeah, dude. Same here. Same here. The day I'm done with like the fitness industry completely, I'll just completely disappear.
Yeah, I probably will. Probably live pretty far out. Like no one will know where I'm at anymore.
Yeah, same.
But
Return to the '90s.
yeah, oh yeah, for sure. So we're getting some people jumping on here. We got 28 already. Hell yeah, sweet. So for everyone jumping on, we are doing post-show questions. So anything post-show related is pretty much fair game. Um, where are you located? It's still light there.
Yeah, I'm in Texas.
Okay, well, yeah, you're an hour behind, so that's why. I was like,
Yeah,
why is it still? It's about to be dark though soon.
I know. Isn't that weird?
Yeah, because it is like pitch black here.
Yeah, no, it will be light out here probably for another hour, maybe a little bit more.
Yeah. Let's see. Um, okay. All right, guys. Post show questions. So we decided anything related to anything related to health, nutrition, training, psych stuff, even considerations,
Which is
goals
huge,
post show.
huge.
Yep. I think I think it's safe to say that people disregard all the important stuff post show to go for the shiny stuff, which is going to be let's rebound, let's grow, let's do all these things. And of course, males are generally way more resilient than females in terms of like hormonal adaptation and stuff. But still, even then, with males, there's still a lot of systemic fatigue that can be rinsed off post show. It's it's funny like I get guys like I work with a lot of functional health, but I work with a lot of like male bodybuilders too, and they're so surprised how much we can just continue to start so low post show and just ramp like indefinitely through the off season, whether it's like training stimulus or food or maybe and supplementation gets added in so late and they're like, holy shit, I've gained 40 pounds and we haven't even bumped gear up yet. It's like,
I know,
yeah, because we didn't need to.
I know. It's hard to break that dogma because there's so much dogma surrounded. Not to mention, there's a lot of gym buddy influence, or everybody's
Right.
jumping on crazy cycles post show, gonna blow up. I mean, I've lost tons of clients because they choose other coaches who are big drug pushers, because they want the
Sure.
drugs, they want to take the drugs, drugs, and like you don't realize it, but the clients that do trust you do see it, and like as you said, they're like, oh my gosh, we haven't even started, and I'm like still lean, I'm up like 25 pounds, I feel great, and they're like at that point they're not spent, they're not pushing the envelope,
Yep.
it's nice. I mean, you can't help everybody, but you always try to educate as much as you can, and hopefully you get as many people to listen as possible. Because at the end of the day, you want to. I tell people, man, you want to go through this also thinking of longevity outside of just results. It's very easy to shit on your body completely, not just internally, but like your joints, your body, your injuries. How many bodybuilders have ended their career just on injuries alone? Almost all of them. you know,
Sure.
it's always
Yeah.
injuries.
Just short-sighted, right? Like everything's short-sighted. Just like what's now, what's next week versus like this is an off season. Like where are we going to be at 6, 8 months from now? Like what kind of progress are we actually going to make? Because in reality, and this has been shown in research, like your potential to grow post show is maybe heightened a little bit in the sense like insulin sensitivity is going to be increased. But in reality, you're gaining a lot of glycogen, you're gaining a lot of fluid, you're regaining tissue that you lost. There's going to be a little bit of that, right?
Yep,
And
a lot of body fat.
you're refilling all those adipose cells. Like they're going to get refilled. That's
And I
so
think a lot of people get confused with because your body retains massive amounts of fluid, and the muscles look full and round, and they're like, man, I never
right,
looked like this at 230 before. Well, that's just an
right,
abnormal amount of blood volume, It's just like you get a pump
yep,
brushing your teeth, you get a pump walking the treadmill, and I think that it's
yep.
associated with muscle growth. No, it's just fluid.
I always tell people it's like when you go through the initial rebound, and then if your off season is long enough and you have to do like that mini cut and then see what you look like in the next push, like that's more realistic of like your actual muscle growth. Like when you
Right.
get past the super compensation effect, you're past all that, because you're inevitably there will be a period later on where you're like, man, I almost kind of look a little not as big as I did,
Yeah.
immediately.
Oh, yeah.
Like you've made progress for sure, but it doesn't look as drastic as it was like that immediate post show period, right?
100%.
So
That's
um,
100% correct.
we did get a question drop in. Okay. Do you see adrenal insufficiency happen post show ever? The opposite of what we expect regarding cortisol. So like low, so seeing bottomed out cortisol post show.
I'm an individual that really pays attention and tries to simplify things instead of overcomplicate things. Now, I don't mean that in no disrespect to any coach that does. I'm just saying when it comes to adrenal, people call it adrenal fatigue. There's people who say that doesn't exist. There's people who say it exists. But the bottom line is I try to address what's happening with that individual and look at all aspects of overtraining, what they're doing, nutrition, supplements, what they were doing for gear, how long. But I haven't had really anybody post show get worse and worse and worse. Everybody's gotten better and better and better.
Sure.
So in that, and now as far as chronic fatigue, there is chronic lingering fatigue that can occur sometimes weeks after post show, even if you are eating sufficient calories, dotting your I's, crossing your T's with supplements, vitamins, and hormones or whatever. There can still be chronic fatigue. I mean, there's been shows where I really had to hammer it with cardio, and my legs were in a chronic state of fatigue for months.
Sure.
Like I just did, and
Yeah.
that's just kind of how it is. But it was literally getting better. It wasn't something that I was getting worse and worse and worse over time. I'm sorry if I didn't answer that person's question, but
Well, I mean, I think the biggest, like, I mean, in terms of like cortisol, they're asking about adrenal insufficiency. I mean, one of two things, like your cortisol is gonna obviously go up during stress or during prep to some extent, right? Because you're trying to maintain, even just from the fact like your body's trying to maintain blood sugar when food gets really low, like your cortisol and adrenaline and stuff go up a little bit. It's like dumping more glucose or trying to figure out how to maintain it. So can you crash? Can it crash? Yeah, it takes, I would say though that the biggest problem is probably just people not being in a good position when they start the prep in the first place.
yeah.
When I, because I do get into that, like I said, like into the functional side and stuff, and I do get people with adrenal insufficiency, so low cortisol, but it takes a while to get there. Like most people have to go through a chronically high cortisol state for like months and months and months and months before they'll crash off. So most people ending prep are just going to be high cortisol. You know what I mean? Like
Actually, come to think of it, I had a female I helped years ago, and she competed legitimately for 3 years straight. And
so she would be adrenal insufficient.
right. But I mean, we never did anything in regards to, blood work. But what we did was I said to her, I go, listen, you're going to have to reset your body, right?
Yeah.
There's going to have to be a level of body fat gain that it's
Sure.
going to have to occur. You're going to have to taper out. We tapered down cardio. We tapered up. We titrated up food over a long duration of time. And then it came to a point, you always know when your body starts to correct, because it came to a point when she was doing legitimately a third of the cardio she used to do, and she was eating almost 1.5 times what she was eating the previous off season, and then she started to lose weight, right?
Sure.
Now her body fat starts to come down, she starts to get energetic, then she's like, oh my God, I got my period. And then a year later, we're prepping for their next show, which she always did very well genetically, as far as structure. And we were dieting on more food and less cardio than she ever has for any prep, and she got in better shape. You know, sometimes you got to really pull yourself all out of the hole. But a lot of people, when it comes to the mental aspect of things, are not willing to go there because it's so uncomfortable.
Yep. It's funny you bring that point up. It's most people, they like, I'll grind, I'll do whatever I have to do. But when it comes to actually restoring their health, they're super uncomfortable, right? It's very uncomfortable because why? Because it doesn't drive that OCD neurotic like behavior, because it's literally doing usually less of something, whether it's cardio or, you know, you might even have to, or you have to eat more, obviously, you know, you might have to train a little differently, but every single case that I work with that has any type of bad hormonal adaptation or cortisol, you know, adrenal insufficiency or whatever it is, the basis of it is what you just said. It's stress reduction over time, and it's not being in a calorie deficit, right? And it's super difficult for people. It's just a time thing. Like time and low stress heal nearly every metabolic and hormonal adaptation that you can imagine. Time
100%.
and low stress will heal them for the most part.
You know, check this out. I don't have ulcerative colitis in my family. I got no IBD or IBS in my family. I brought IBD on myself through bodybuilding. Just always full throttle, stimulating my sympathetic nervous system and to the point of inflammation. And due to my genetics, I had that response, developed IBD, had ulcerative colitis, got diagnosed. Now, I haven't lived the bodybuilding lifestyle now for almost 15 months. And my last colonoscopy showed no history of IBD at all anywhere.
Right.
I can eat anything I want. I don't have any digestive issues, zero, zip. But that's a perfect example of lower stress over time, heals. But back to that mentality of mental people, because the reason people have so much trouble doing it is it doesn't make sense, because they feel like they're taking a bunch of steps backwards. Here I am trying to be fit and lean, and I have to gain body fat. That doesn't make sense. Here I am trying to build muscle. I have to take a period of time to lower my muscle and back off things before I go forward again. And that's where people just get stuck in that spinning zone where the wheels are just spinning, you know?
And there's probably something to be said about, you know, I know we said we were going to talk about post-show, but just even just pre-show, pre-prep, and what someone's mental state's like. I know anymore, I'm hesitant to ever even take anyone that even displays any types of those tendencies and stuff pre-show, because it's going to be a disaster post-show. They're not going to recover because they're not going to want to do what I tell them to do. And secondly, I know that they're going to be less likely to even stay with me post-show. Now, not every client has to stay with a coach post-show. I'm not saying that, but I'm saying there are certain types of people that certainly will benefit from it, from having that objective eye in there, because right. Or do you really think these people are going to do what they need to do to recover when they start gaining a little body fat? Absolutely not. They're going to revert right back to what they were doing before. Right. So, someone commented, Sonia, actually, she's a coach on my team. She's like, it's hard. It's hard when the something you need to do is nothing. Yep. Yeah. Right.
I know.
That's it.
You know, it's funny. I tell my clients that when they come out of a phase, especially women, and they're like, I'm gaining body fat, I'm uncomfortable, because women are most of the time more worried about body fat than we are in the off season, right? Bodybuilders. And I'm like, you have to start shifting your focus to something different. Strength training, increasing hip mobility. Oh, you have a hip impingement. You should be focusing all on mobility work. Have goals that takes your mind away from what makes you feel uncomfortable to help pass that time, versus obsessing about how much time you might have left in what you have to do to heal your body, you know?
Right.
That's always helped me personally. If I had a phase where I got to really back off the pedal and I have to let things heal, oh, I'm going to go focus on this 100% instead of just staring at whatever I have to deal with that I don't want to deal with, you know?
I know after competing for a while, and having my own, my own issues, I kind of tried to turn my post show period into more of like what can I put this focus on, this intense focus that I have, and it was like, how healthy can I get post show? Like, how good can I function post show? Because I knew, after experiencing, I knew that the better I function, the better my progress was going to be, and that's the case with everyone, obviously. But it's like, how good can I get my digestion post show? Like, how quick can I get my sleep back intact post show? How quick can all these things? So it's like, yeah, that's kind of feeding that OCD type of tendency, but we're putting it towards something good. As long as the hard part, I think, for a lot of people is just is when plans are simple. One of the things I challenge a lot of people that have those issues is I challenge them to simplify what they're doing in their plans, because they're the people that they want to have the 900 different pieces of biofeedback in their update, like they want to track. And I'm like, okay, but do you realize that all the negative connotations that you put onto these things, like if this is off, your day's ruined. If this is off, your day's ruined. You know what I mean? So it's like, well, how about we get rid of all that stuff so you can actually think objectively about how you feel? Because I don't want how you feel in the morning to be dictated by what you weigh, your heart rate, your blood glucose, like all of these things. And like, I want it to be like a genuine report to me in the update, right? So it's tough for people.
It's a really good point. It's a really good point in regards to tracking too many things. And I try to tell people, like, listen, tracking, I know people say they love tracking stuff, but you know what? Tracking stuff, in my experience with people, eventually leads to burnout. They're just like, oh, this is too much. I need a break. And as you just said, if you have so many things you're trying to stick with, and then you slip up and you don't follow 3 of them out of 10, sometimes that person feels like a failure. They're like, oh, man, I'm not doing what I need to do. I'm like, in retrospect of all what you are doing, it's legitimately going to have 0 impact. I've never been one to track. Like, I prepped myself for a show without writing anything down. I knew my portions. I knew my low days were. I knew what my high days were, and then I knew what I had to do progress each week. Everything was just as consistent as possible. And I like to keep it simple and keep more of my mental focus on just dealing with fatigue and dealing with training and focusing on training. Where devil's in the details, where people get so detail oriented in regards to training that they end up failing to train hard.
Yeah. Sure. Yeah. I mean, there's now more than ever, it's very easy because we slap a fitness tracker on our wrist, or you wear it in Oura Ring or whatever it is. And it's like, it's cool data. I appreciate it for what it is and a certain type of person, but for the most part, the people that want to track that stuff the most are usually the people that shouldn't. You know what I mean? Like
100%.
And that also goes back to another great post-show takeaway is, and this isn't a plug necessarily, it's just hire a coach. Like, I think it's a really good thing to do post-show. I think it's just, if you've ever had an issue, I just think it's like, I've heard it, a million times over now. It's like, oh, they'll be fine, because you know why? Because they're like dopamine hit right after the show, right? They're like, ready for Monday. I'm going to get back in. I'm going to kill it. And then like 6 to 8 weeks later, or 3 or 4 months later, even, they come back, man, really wish I would have stayed with you post show. Like, everything is a fucking wreck. You know what I mean? It's like, man.
Then you're digging them out of a hole,
Yep.
And I will say, for the people who are listening, like, if you really play your post show correctly, it really carries you through a whole entire off season. Versus having 6 to 8 weeks of like this immense rebound, followed by sore joints, lack of pumps, excessive body fat, sluggishness, sleep apnea, and then you're kind of in a bad position for the next push. I have a couple guys now who are just about to start their off season because they competed in November, and they're like super lean. They're already heavier and way leaner than they were when they started their prep. So I'm like,
Yeah.
and they can't even believe it. They're like, oh my God, this is amazing. Like, we're going to have, like, this is exactly it. Like, digestion's on point, joints are ready. You just got to be patient. Pushing it too much is a big mistake. And speaking of that, Ronnie Coleman said one time in an interview, like, what's one of the things that you wish you did differently? He said, time. I knew the size would just come. I shouldn't have pushed it too much, because he was explaining that, like, he kind of pushed it too much, and there was like injury or whatever it was referring to, versus like the muscle will come. It's not like you're going to gain 5 pounds of muscle in a week, you know, like
Yeah.
it's going to come in time and consistency. It doesn't, you don't have to, you can't force your body to gain muscle, you know?
Right. Yeah. And I think people, for the most part, we probably all have kind of a genetic ceiling that we're probably going to reach in some time frame, whether it's 5 years or whether it's 20 years, depending on how long you do it. But there's going to be a lot of deleterious effects if you reach it in 5 years versus 20. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like but but also like you mentioned, a really good thing you mentioned, there's something in terms that I like to do with, especially with like my guys that or enhanced clients. If you really, really play your cards right, you can damn near, like you said, surpass your previous off season's best before you even really start to ramp things up. Like, I'll do that with my guys. I'm like, hey, I think we can get to as big or close and in good condition as you were at the end of your prior off season before we even need to ramp PEDs up at all. Right. And
100%.
they're shocked. They're like, oh, that sounds so foreign to them. But then what's the prize there? The prize is that you have a bunch of resources left over now. Not only did you restore your health entirely for the most part, post show, you did it and you grew at the same time. And, your digestion's fixed, your sleep's fixed, all these things are fixed in the up the trend. And then by the time you do want to up the trend, you're like, you're going to fucking blow way past anything that you ever accomplished. So I know I haven't competed since 19, but that's what I did. And I made this promise to myself. I was like, I said, I am going to basically stay on some prescribed TRT, and I'm basically going to keep my training. I kept everything like sub-maximal pretty much for the most part, like in terms of like going to failure and everything for like the first 4 months. Dude, I almost got clear back to my previous off season's best. Prescribed TRT. I just started taking shit to failure in the gym by the end of it.
Yeah. Did you say you started not training to failure, right?
The whole time, like the whole like first 3 months, like, and the thing is, I got stronger and stronger and stronger every week because all I was doing was rinsing off fatigue, right?
Yeah.
Like I was rinsing off fatigue every week. And then by the time I got 3 or 4 months in, I was damn near at what I was at the end of the off season. And I had like all these resources left to work with,
Something you say about failure. That's a good point. People always ask, hey, I want to implement this new training program, and you look at it and it's got a lot of volume. It's got a lot of failure sets, drop sets, and post show. I'm like, that's not what we're doing post show. And what you just said about going to TRT and not train to failure, and you were just rinsing off fatigue, improving, is a point that a lot of people don't understand, because when they come out of a show, they're motivated, they're ready to push super hard, and they end up going to the gym trying to try new training, new movements. They want to try new intensities because of all this food. And that ends up raising up fatigue where your body can't recover from, and you're sure as shit not going to get stronger or bigger. And I implement that too a lot with people. I go, listen, you can't be going to failure post show, and you can't be doing these crazy drop sets or these giant sets or these 50 rep sets. Like, if you really match your training and your recovery, so you're recovering all the time, you're going to be able to push forward, even though you're not training as hard as you think you should be training. That is really hard to break with people.
Yeah,
it's very hard.
It is difficult. I mean, yeah, it's difficult. Someone said, Austin, this is exactly what I'm experiencing right now, and it's blowing my mind. It's
Yeah.
cool. Like
Perfect.
you see it when it starts happening, you're like, holy shit. And it took me a few times, like it's several times competing to kind of like get at peace with this. The fact that I actually not feel like a lazy piece of shit post show, like I was doing something wrong. You know what I mean? And I'm like, man, this is working. And then my blood work looks great. I'm growing. I feel better. My sleep isn't, it's not taking me 6 months to get back to halfway normal post show, and by that time I'm going into another prep again or whatever. So, um, it's pretty cool. Like when you can actually just get your body to function optimally and then you realize that everything else just follows suit. And then if you do want to have an extended off season, dude, you've got limitless potential at the end of that, right? You got tons of stuff to work with still.
Yeah, and it was funny. I first learned that by accident. I was after a show. I was getting ready to go to my internship, and training wasn't a priority, and I was just kind of like doing what I could do with the time I had. And every single time I went to the gym, I was stronger and stronger, and my joints didn't hurt, and I was getting bigger, and I'm like, what is going on here? Like I'm eating my food, but my training is
Right.
just, in my opinion, at the time, it was half of what I would normally do as far as intensity goes. And I was just improving, literally. It was nuts, nuts. And after that, I'm like,
Right.
oh, it's kind of like, the philosophy of you hit the gas pedal in your car too hard, you spin your wheels. But you give it the right amount of acceleration, you get more traction. It's not just
Yep.
beast mode. Beast mode gets you
Yep.
nowhere, you know?
Yep. And you always need, and you always got to remember that everything in terms of muscle growth, we need to like accumulate something, right? We need to accumulate training, like getting stronger, adding volume, whatever. Like we need more food, we need all these things. If you do all that shit, you know, the first week post show, you're gonna get 3 months in, you got nothing left. There's no resources left for you to
Yeah.
progress, right?
And and
You
and
just got to shine hole.
and one thing that's a concern, because I am more health conscious than a lot of people, and say you were in heavy orals at the end, and you use diuretics, you're dehydrated, and then you binge out, and then your blood's a mess, and then you continue to binge out, and you continue to take drugs, like your blood's just an astronomical mess. And I tell my clients, I'm like, someone did ask a question here when you should get blood work. I recommend getting blood work almost right away. And people go, well, it might be bad. Well, good. Then you know how bad it was. Because I like to know. I got my blood work done at 2 weeks out, my last pro show. And then again 2 weeks after. And then again 4 weeks after. And of course, before I start everything, I want everything to be normal. But I want to know how bad it was or where it is. Because it gives you a good idea of like what you're doing and how it's affecting your body. Sometimes you're shocked, as in like one way, wow, it's way better than I thought, or oh my God, it's way worse than I thought. You know what I mean? And
Right.
then you know that certain things you shouldn't be using and certain things you should, because everybody responds differently to different things. I had a client once he's a pro now. He got his pro card at nationals, and then 2 weeks post show, his labs were normal, even his HDL. Like
Free.
I got
What
questions,
a
dude.
fucking,
I
like,
go, you're
yeah.
free. He's like, what do you mean? I go, I don't think I've seen my HDL normal in like 15 years.
Yeah. Never.
No.
Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah. And then, the next dude's HDL is going to be like a 6, you know.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, it's definitely some people are really crazy in that regard. Somebody asked, let's see, female question. How many weeks out do you like to start Anavar for females? And if using for a little or a longer period, how long do you want off between cycles? So
All
I
right.
guess like how
Yeah. So I
so how
usually,
long? I was gonna say like what? Maybe let's broaden that question. Like how long would you start if it's an enhanced female? How long would you start PEDs like out from the show?
it,
We'll
it
say that.
really, it really has a lot to do with how that female is responding to it and how much they're using. So typically, the females I've helped in the past, they never went any higher ever than 20 milligrams, and most of them are at 10 milligrams. So years ago, I had a client. She was doing multiple shows, and she was on Anavar for a good hefty 12 weeks, and she's only running 10 mgs. and she's in great shape. And she's like, Chris, I want to do a show in another 3 weeks. And I'm like, man, that's tough. Why don't you get lab work? Lab work was completely normal. AST and ALT were just slightly elevated, around 50. HDL was a hair low, but LDL was low. Everything's fine. I go, fine, keep going. I mean, what are the dangers of orals? The lipid altering effects mostly, and the liver damage. Well, if everything is within line and normal, then I don't really discriminate against a specific length of time, especially because females are using it at such a lower dose than men. But typically 10 weeks out, I'll usually will start with a low dose. But again, anybody's listening, as far as female doses and the things that I've helped people with, I'm like a fraction of what people do today. None of my women change their voice deep. Like, that's not my department. That's not when I go. And no disrespect to anybody who does. It's just, that's not how I run with things. So my length of time might be very different than others.
Yeah. And I would say that just in terms of doses in general, I think that's something that people forget about prep is that, like, what are we looking to get out of the compounds in prep? You know, muscle retention, you get that little bit of cosmetic effect, you know, from like the DHT aspect of it, maybe help you retain strength a little bit, whatever, right? But realistically, unless you're a little bit detrained going into it, or you're just a freaky responder, most people that are pretty seasoned bodybuilders aren't really growing in prep unless they see pros and shit, some like the bigger pros and stuff do it. It's like, yeah, because they're detrained and they go into prep and they basically rebound, right? But it's like most people aren't going to be putting on any noticeable amount of tissue. So it's like there is a point where this idea of just using a bunch, you know, tons and tons of shit in prep, all it does is create a bunch of systemic stress, and you don't get that sharp look that you want, right? So there's definitely like, I found this. I had a client one time. It's funny, what happened. He, like, we'll put it this way, he couldn't get what he needed, went into the show in like such minimal amounts, ran out of almost everything except just a couple things. And he's like, he just kept getting, But the funny thing is, and it wasn't like he didn't have anything. He ran out of most of it. But went to the show, test and went strong. And I was like, man, you're just getting fucking harder and harder, like at a fast rate. And he was feeling better. And a lot of it, like and at first I'm like, okay, you're getting leaner. You should be getting leaner. Fine. But then when he started feeling better, I'm like, there's something to this, like, amount of systemic, because he was somebody that liked to use a lot of shit in prep. It's like, there's something to this, like, systemic fatigue that it's creating, right? So next prep, went in a little bit less. I'm like, dude, you look way better. Noticeably better. Sharper, harder, less water retention, peaked easier, like easy to peak. Like, you know, you look at some of these guys, man, maybe they don't get in shape, but they just can't fucking peak because they've just got a film. They've got that, like, red inflamed, they got the inflammation.
Yeah.
So
hormones are out of whack. I'm a firm believer too in that same thing where people are on less, especially at the end. And the body just tends up looking better. I know people say, oh, the body gets super, super flat. I haven't seen that. I just haven't seen that, you know, especially with the right type of compounds and stuff like that. But Testin Winnie is a perfect example. You know, it's funny you say that too, because, like, I remember helping a client, right? And he was competing in NPC and he was natural for a long time, did very well. And then he decided to run just 50 milligrams of Winstrol for 6 weeks, leading up to his 4th NPC show. And the dude looked bonkers, like absolutely bonkers. And then the year after, he's like, I'm willing to use other things. He came in bigger, but he wasn't that gnarly conditioned with just 15 weeks of Winnie, you know? He just didn't have the same.
Right. I mean, I'm not saying, like, I'm not going to sit here and say to use, like, dudes use like 20 milligrams of Winstrol and go to the show. Like, that's not what I'm saying. But
yeah.
But there's definitely a fine line where you do become just a fucking ball of inflammation, and you're not going to get the look that you want. Like, and you even see it in people, like, maybe they have good genetics for glute striations. Like, they'll get these gnarly fucking glutes, but everything else just, why? Where's the separation? You know, why does it not look like that? Or it's
everywhere. Yeah.
Right. Or it's like maybe it's their their upper back looks fucking crazy, and you know, it's just like,
that
why
kind
is
of
this?
that kind of falls into also the obstacle we've all have is gear drug quality. It's like the growth they're using,
Sure.
the Anavar they're using. I mean, I've seen people use prescription Anavar, Watson, with the most stellar looking result I've ever seen in my life, versus somebody else is using triple the dose of Anavar from like an underground company. You know what I mean?
Well, sure.
That's always the biggest obstacle too when you're looking at peaking somebody in that regard.
Somebody did ask, speaking of which, somebody did ask about GH. Discuss your views on GH and how important it is in bodybuilding and classic. I'm not sure if they mean in prep. I guess we're gonna say,
Yeah.
well, we'll just say prep.
I personally think that young people, I think anybody can benefit from it. It will be beneficial off season or prep. I think it's more benefit as someone's older, like say over the age of 25. I personally noticed a way bigger difference when I was older than when I was younger. But for as prep goes, I think it makes a huge difference. The body just has a different appearance. It's more 3D. It's fuller, more 3D. I tend to not hit as many plateaus in the fat loss department when I'm using it. I tend to stay fuller even on very, very, very low calories or even chronic fatigue. I just don't seem to have that quick flat look that I would normally get if I wasn't using it. I think it's beneficial. But in regards to specifically to a class, listen, men's physique guys, bikini chicks, everybody's using growth if they have the ability, if they have the availability, they can afford it. They are. It's not like a particular class needs to avoid something or not. That's for sure. But I mean, it also depends. You can also kind of gauge that on your own physique. So if your physique is generally very round, full, muscle belly-ish, and you have very good distinct muscle separation, then and fullness is not really a problem for you, then maybe it may not be something that you want to put all your money in and try to buy. But if your like physique has that trouble getting that, maintain that fuller look in prep, and you look kind of flatter and you're looking more at that 3D look throughout prep, then it might be something that you want to try. But growth can definitely make you get more out of your gear, where if you're going to be able to use less gear and get more out of it if you have the addition of growth. That's my personal experience. That's what I've seen with clients. I know some other people have similar views on it as well. But I hear a lot of people say, you have to use growth to turn pro. That's crap. I never used it before I turned pro. But some people do.
Well, yeah, but that's, I mean, there's a lot of there's a lot of people that could, not a lot, but there's certainly, if you are an upper tier pro, then you can do a lot of things that's going to work.
Right.
You know what I mean?
I hate absolutes. I just hate absolutes.
But yeah, I never speak in absolutes. I hate to be the guy that says it depends, because that's kind of like a cop-out answer for me to not answer someone's question. But it really does, does depend. But yeah, I mean, I agree with you. There's not really any downside to it in prep. I think that I don't really see why you would want to, you're not going to want to use any differently between categories or anything. I mean, generally, and to be completely honest, you don't really see a lot of separation in the physiques of bodybuilding, classic, or even men's physique until you start getting up into, you get to the national level, you start seeing some separation between some of the classes. But even then, your guys that are winning nationals in classic physique they would do really, really well in open bodybuilding, at this day and age. Now, granted, when they got into pros, yeah, they're not going to be 250 at 5'8" on stage. Okay. But that's just a small percentage of people. But you see it in the pros too. There's plenty of 212 guys that switch over to classic or switch back and forth at some point in their career. Same with open guys. There's open guys that switch back and forth to classic. It's like classic physique's not really, I had a judge tell me one time, it's the best bodybuilder that can make the weight.
Yeah. Ultimately,
and,
yeah.
Yeah. And he's like, yes, they say it's a look, it's a look, but he goes, really, it's the best bodybuilder that can make the weight. I mean, a great example would be, unfortunately he's passed away, but George Peterson, good example. Like, visibly, not classic, really. but did great in classic, and he was fucking loaded with muscle. You
That's
know what
when
I
people
mean?
get confused. That's when people get
It's like,
confused. They're like, well, that guy goes classic, he does well, or he turned pro. It's like, look at who he was the best guy that day in that lineup.
sure.
Until you
Yeah.
get 15 guys who are all great, very classic look, and are all great bodybuilders, then it becomes harder to judge, you know?
Yeah.
Especially because they're all maxed out for their weight and their height.
Yeah, they are. And again, people, I think what people at a regional level or at a local level, I think what they don't realize about classic is classic physique pros are big. They are big. They're not they're not small. I mean, men's physique guys that are pro, dude, they're not even flexing their arms, and they're standing there relaxed, and half the time they're big. You know what I mean? Like those dudes could, if they learn how to pose and they tried to grow a little bit more, they could definitely compete in classic, most of them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Especially if they have legs.
So, so yeah, and there's definitely people like to speculate like differences in like gear use and all these things between classes. I assure you, there's not much. There is some. I mean, you're going to find just more differences from individual to individual than you will from category to category, for sure. So yeah, there's plenty of dudes. There's plenty of dudes in classic that are gassed out, I'm sure.
Oh,
You
yeah.
know.
I've had quite a few inquiries from men's physique guys that were taking more gear than I've ever recommended any bodybuilder to take.
Sure.
By
Yeah.
far,
I mean,
by far. And
yeah.
that's the other thing. That's the other thing too. When people associate size with just milligram, you ever hear that? Where people are like, "Oh, bodybuilders just take more," or "Classic guys take less than bodybuilders, but men's physique guys take less than classic." It doesn't work that way. It does not work that way. Not one bit. Not but one bit. But
No.
back to the post-show stuff. One thing I wanted to add that's important is in bodybuilding and the whole being able to progress every year or whatever category you're in, the whole year, everything needs to be broken down into phases. People need to understand that you're not just in a cutting phase and then right into a building phase. And then every time you're not in a cutting phase, you're straight in a building phase. It doesn't work that way. There's phases through the off season. Sometimes you have to adjust those phases based on what your body's doing. So if you accept the whole process as a whole and understand that, like, you know, post show, it's about this. And then after post show, once you're a good 8 to 10 weeks out, you'll be ready to go into that growth phase. And then you go into a holding phase. And then whatever you have planned later that year. But it goes in phases. And I have a lot of clients come to me. They're working with me through off season this year. That's what they haven't in the previous years. And they're like, Chris, I keep falling into the same hole where you get too heavy too quickly. Then they get tired, their sleep goes down, then their training's bad, then they're trying to use whatever gear to get bigger, and it's not working as well as it was before, and they just get very stale very quickly. They get stale too fast. I think that's one of the things that people make the mistake is when you push it too hard, too quick post-show, you get stale quicker, and then you're going to be more in a plateaued situation throughout most of your off-season versus if you played your cards right.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. It's just all you're doing is limiting your potential through the whole off season. Again, you know, you're just focused on right now. So we're talking about guys a lot. I think maybe add a little bit of, you know, a few things for women in there too. A lot of that's gonna translate right over to women for sure, post show. But, you know, ladies, definitely menstrual cycles. I mean, menstrual cycle is not like the end all be all, but it is a good indicator of health for females. It is a good indicator that, you know, that your progesterone and estrogen, all these things are cycling throughout the month, that you're ovulating, that you're doing all this, right? So that's always a good indicator of health for women. And supplementation wise, kind of the same thing. If they are enhanced, probably want to have everything being working correctly. You probably want to have a period back, all these things before you add in supplementation, whatever their preference in supplementation might be. So all those things are going to be pretty much the same in women. The difference in women is it's just harder to recover a woman that gets lean. Like bikini, the thing is, like, even bikini now, like, yeah, it's not lean, but women don't biologically just not made to have boxed out glutes on stage. You know what I mean? Like, it's just not. So yes, women's physique pros get fucking insanely peeled now. Like, it's insane. Like, they get so shredded, but they inevitably are probably, I don't want to speculate I mean, I know some of them, but I don't want to say what they're all doing, but it's definitely, if you're concerned about about any type of hormonal health, that's not a state that you're going to stay in for an extended period of time. And the problem is
there's always a rebound. There's always a nasty rebound.
Somewhere it's going to happen. The problem is, like,
100%.
it might not be now, it might not be next year's competing, but it's going to happen.
Right. And and what some people, I hate this when this happens. Obviously, there's genetic outliers, but we're not talking about those. The vast majority of people, females, who you see stay insanely shape after, is a lot of them are not coming off high T3. They're not coming off a lot of drugs. They're still pushing them. So people, don't compare yourself to them. Because I hear a lot of women be like, oh, well, so-and-so does this, so-and-so does that. Can't do that. You have to really kind of be in your own box, in your own circle, and not comparing to those people, because a lot of those people are doing things that are extremely pushing the envelope. And that's kind of like the elephant in the room. I hate to say it, where there's a lot of things that you and I know that are going on that the general amateur novice level don't understand, or they don't understand the ramifications, what comes with that later. And that's more or less why I worry with people, kind of with females post-show, not taking their post-show really seriously and getting really too hurry into trying to stay lean or get bigger. It's really about rebuilding that relationship with food, and accepting the fact that their physique is going to change, and it's going to change relatively rapidly for a period of time. There's no question,
There's another good point to add in there is, like, social media is complete fucking bullshit. So don't worry about comparing yourself to people. I mean, you work with them, I work with them. There's so many people. I'm not calling anyone out specifically, and because I respect all my clients, but I'm just saying, like, there's plenty of people that I've gotten that are complete and utter fucking messes that portray something entirely different on social media. That's all bullshit. And secondly, the relationship with food, that's like maybe one other good thing to touch on too, is just that one sign of recovery that I like is just hunger cues and psychological hunger. It's like, you should, as your off season progresses, you should have very little cravings, other than, you're at a get together or something. Maybe there's something that you like. You should have very little cravings. You should be satisfied with your food, pretty level hunger. You'll get hits, ghrelin will spike up here and there when you need to eat, fine. But if you're having binge eating, the tendencies, you feel that, like, you can't stop, you're having urges, all these things, you are not recovered. You are not recovered.
No.
You are not.
And the binge eating cycle just continues that poor relationship for an extended period of time, and moves you further away from being where you need to be. And you're not going to be able to enter into that full off season very well at all.
Right.
That's the hardest part. It's very hard for females. I feel bad, because, women are a little more harsh with each other when it comes to, like, body image. Like, oh, she's gaining a lot of weight, she's getting fat, or men can make a joke. Men can more make a joke of it. So I feel bad.
I've been saying that forever.
I used to have a client, dude. He used to get peeled. But, man, he would have a full gut in the off season. And 2 months after the show, he would whip out his stomach, like, shake it around, like in Click, that big when he had what's it, Click with Adam Sandler? He's shaking his gut around. He goes, "You see this? This is fucking happiness." Shaking it, and they're like, and he would get peeled every time, but he didn't care, and he'd make a joke of it. But guys make a joke. They're like, "Bro, you look like a tick." But women, on the other hand, it's tough. They have that pressure from Instagram. They have the pressure to compete, pressure to do well, pressure to put themselves, and then, of course, people seeing their body change and comment on it, But that's a difficult part. And I try to really, really help the more psychological part with females in that, because if they're comfortable with the phase and they're able to kind of skate their way out of that reduced fatigue and rebuild that relationship, they're in an all better place 100% everywhere, and they might worry about their hormones, but with fixing relationship with food, by the time your relationship with food is fixed, and you haven't gained too much weight, and you haven't blown up, those hormones are most likely going to be in the normal range.
Sure. Yep. Yeah. Again, goes back to rinse fatigue, lower stress, eat in a calorie surplus, da 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 da. That's going to fix most of the problems. And really like, I just I see it so much, and it makes me a little sad because they're so influenced by social media and what maybe they've done with other coaches or their friends have done or whatever. And they're like, all these things, it's really, really difficult to break that thought process. And they know what they're doing is not helping them, but body image holds them back. These OCD type tendencies, all these things hold them back, and they just have a really difficult time letting go. And not only that, but another like big mistake is competing is all they've ever done. Like they've never actually had a period of like healthy body fat level for that person. And that's going to vary person to person, right? But they've never, maybe they got into fitness, they lost some weight or something, and they started competing, and that's all they've done. And every time they get a little fat, they just compete again. They get a little fat, they just compete again. And it's like, they don't even have a fucking clue, like what is a normal body fat supposed to even look like on me,
Right. And then the hole just gets deeper and deeper. One thing you said about coaches, and just because something works doesn't mean it's the right way to do it. Right. Like,
well, yeah,
I've seen situations where women had to do 2 hours of cardio a day, 800 calories on 160 micrograms of T3 and Clen, and sure, get lean, get your pro card, but now what? You see what I'm saying?
Right.
It worked, but after the fact,
Well, if people pay any attention, and a lot of people haven't been around, a lot of people, unfortunately, especially women, because you can get into like bikini and things a lot quicker than a male can get good at bodybuilding, right? That's just the truth. So they haven't been around very long, and so they haven't really seen that. But you've seen it. I've seen it. Shelf life on women, dude. There's turnover. Like it's like in and out, in and out, in and out. And you never like, oh, look at this coach. They're pumping out all these women. I'm like, guess what? Do you notice you hardly ever see the same one posted ever?
Oh yeah.
They're gone. Like, yeah. I'm like, dude, they are gone. They're out there miserable somewhere.
Yeah, my wife helps a lot of ex-competitors try to restore the relationship with food, because high percent of them have severe binge eating disorders, body image disorders. They're afraid to go to the gym again, because at one point, whatever coach they used just buried them. And that's, I think people need to be more aware. People need more to talk about it. A lot of people are like, oh, you really got to like call out the coaches. Yeah, that's not what we do. It's more we got to educate people to understand that some approaches may not necessarily be the right one, and there's going to be long-term ramifications with that.
Yeah. Someone asked about, let's see, hormones. Tanya, you can message me. I've seen some of your stuff. You can message me. I can look at those for you. Let's see. Someone asked the other one about the relationship with food. Is that also psychological? Because we were mentioning that was like physiological thing. Yeah, I mean, it is.
Yeah.
Sure.
There's a physiological component, but it's mainly psychologically driven. I mean, we all know people, even in the off season, sometimes that food focus continues to carry over, or in the off season, they might be back to their set point theory or back to their normal body fat, but they still sometimes binge because they're still too food focused, because they still see the food they're eating on a daily basis as being very restricted. And when you feel very restricted, sometimes you put food on a pedestal. So then when you go to eat out, you're like, oh, I'm going to order that. And then you eat, and then you go home and you eat again. And you're like, I'll just start tomorrow and plan on fresh. Actually, I'll do some extra cardio to make up for it. And that's just what you don't want to do that. You don't want to do that.
Right. I always say, like, if you've regained all that body fat back and you're kind of, everything's back to normal and you're still binging, we have a psychological problem at that point.
Yep.
It's not a that I need to gain body fat back problem. It's that yes, your hormone, there still may be a hormonal component, sure, but you've developed an eating disorder at that point. That is not like, because at first, at the beginning of the off season, a lot of it's just like your body literally is trying to reach homeostasis. It's trying to get fatter. That's what it wants to do. Like it wants to gain fat. But if you're past that point and you're still doing it and you maybe even gained more fat than you started with, you got an eating disorder. Like you should, like I just tell people too, I work with those individuals, but I'm like, I always encourage therapy and counseling and stuff too, because a lot of time there's some trauma or there's some reason that all this started. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
yeah. We're obviously every animal's food focused because it's for survival. We are food focused in general just because birthday, we're going to dinner, we're going out. It's Christmas, we're having a huge feast. Special occasion, we're having dessert. We're grown up with food being a reward for something. We finished baseball game, we won the championship, we're getting all you can eat pizza night. So like we had that already kind of instilled in us. And sometimes what we do in fitness kind of can exacerbate a pre-existing issue,
absolutely.
Especially if your parents were one that ate and stress ate, and then you see them stress eat, they stress eat, and they have that, and you kind of learn that behavior, and then you kind of continue with it.
Yep. Fitness, bodybuilding especially, the more extreme it is, the more addicts we attract, the more the previous addicts we attract, the more obsessive compulsive disorder we attract, the more like body image issues we attract. The more extreme it is, the more of that you're going to see. Like that's just how it is. Let's take one more, and then we'll call it a night on here.
2 quick questions. You see that one?
Okay, let's do it.
Yeah.
I got one.
Yeah. What was that one you got?
This one would be a good one for you too, because you're going to have a little more insight than me. But could you and Chris touch on how to adjust mentally when taking a step away from competing? You're a little further away from it than me at this point.
Yeah, I've done it twice. I raced motocross. I was turned professional, and then I rode dirt bikes since I was 4.5 years old, all the way until 21, and I walked away and started bodybuilding. And all I can say is, since I've done it twice, you have to have something you replace it with. Another goal that you wanted to achieve. Oh, you always wanted right now I'm getting into boxing. It's like if there's something else that you wanted to do. Oh, I always wanted to do this. Okay, well, start partaking in that activity. Have new goals and something that you're striving to achieve. If you go from bodybuilding or competing, wherever division you are, and then you have nothing to shoot for a goal, you're going to get very depressed. A lot of people fall in depression after because there's no something to strive for, something to achieve, a goal on a daily basis. Then people start to eat poorly, and then they don't go to the gym as much, and then they get really depressed. You kind of got to replace it. And now if you're one that's like, man, I really want to look the lifestyle, I still want to look like it, but I still want to compete, that's fine too. Just be more on the leaner side, downsize a little bit, maybe incorporate more functional training so you're more able to do normal people things. I mean, let's be honest. As a bodybuilder, most of us, if we had to swim across a lake, we would drown and die. If we had to run more than 1.5 miles, we probably couldn't do it in 10 minutes. So there's a lot of things that you can be able to do physically that you weren't be able to do before. And I think that's one of the most exciting things in the world. The other day, my dog got out, and I jumped over a 7.5-foot fence. I wouldn't have been able to do that 1.5 years ago. Once I leaped over the fence, I was like, oh my God, I actually can do that still. I can't believe it. But when I was bigger, I couldn't,
Right.
Now,
did you, now that you've stepped away from that, you mentioned boxing, did you ever consider, how old are you, Chris?
38, 39 in May.
Oh, you're 39. Okay, so you're a little older than me then. I was asking you, I was like, did you ever consider getting a bike again?
No,
riding?
I don't want to get a dirt bike. One of my good friends I'm friends with, he's like, dude, we got to get bikes. I'm like, I'm not getting a bike. I can't the thing is, when you're 21 and you fall, you get a few scrapes. You fall now, I'm going to be like soft tissue damage and rehab. It's going to be a disaster, Yeah.
So
last question I want to ask.
Yep.
Answer. As a coach, how can you tell if it's psychological eating disorder or driven by hormones imbalance? One feeds the other. Okay. So if there is in other words, I'm not going to use the excuse for an eating disorder or disordered eating being related only to hormones. If we work on the psychological effect and rebuild a relationship with food, and food becomes a more balanced diet and more control and proper sleep, the hormones end up working itself out. It's not going to be a situation where like, oh, I'm doomed forever because my hormones are off. If you fix the problem in regards to your lifestyle, your food, your diet, your stress, your sleep, 99% of the time, it's going to work itself out. It always does. I see all the time when people come in, they're like, I can't lose weight. I have PCOS. I have insulin resistance. I'm like, okay, we'll see about that. And then sure enough, they lose weight. They're like, I can't believe it. Everything's getting better. I'm like, of course it is. Because that's kind of how I have to address it. Some people say that like, well, hormones are causing me to eat this way. Hormones might be a situation where you might feel off mentally, which is making it harder to stay on a plan, but it's not causing you to do that, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Like I said, I think that the situation would be like, if you are chronically lean and you are chronically undereating, you're going to get that like ghrelin, ghrelin hormone is going to go up. Your body, you will get some crazy hunger and cravings and stuff then. But a lot of the people that have these issues, they've already gained the body fat back. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it's not a body, it's not like it's not a being too lean type of issue. And it's not even an undereating issue at that point. Once you kind of get to that point, even if your hormones, aren't 100%, you've probably developed you developed an eating disorder. I mean, that's what's happened. Like you've taken something that maybe started when you were too lean and you were undereating and you were over exercising, but it's turned into an eating disorder now. Like
and think of that cycle, right? The person who asked, think of if you eat and you binge eat, you're most likely going to feel bad about yourself, right? That's going to cause stress. It's going to cause anxiety, mental stress. And then you might try to combat that by restricting calories the next day, trying to do excessive calorie burn, doing more cardio. Then you binge eat again. So the psychological stress of everything and disruption of sleep can also affect your hormones. So it's all about trying to address and build a relationship with food and all that, which will end up working the hormones out in the long run. I feel that with regular general population people, their hormones might be off, or it still might be within normal limits per lab, but it's not within their normal limits on how their labs normally are. And that's a funny thing to think about, because just because your labs are within normal limits doesn't mean that's where your normal really is.
Sure. Yeah. And I mean, those are all great points. Again, I just think that there is the binge eating is a really rough cycle. It is a lot of anxiety there. I mean, people that have never had it, like, could you imagine going home, like maybe you binge eat before bed? Could you imagine going home and thinking, fuck, I don't even want to go to bed tonight because I'm on a binge? Like, like that's what that's like. And so that it's just a never ending, like, revolving door, because like, it's 6 p.m. I'm going to start binging again, just like I did the last, 6 weeks in a row. And that's where I said, like, don't hesitate to get some therapy. Like it's okay.
It works.
Know what I mean?
It works.
Yeah. It's definitely not a bad thing. I've even turned a few people away occasionally where I'm like, listen, I'm like, you need to get this sorted out before you even need to consider tracking any macros or doing anything. This is just going to drive that behavior more and more.
Which is sometimes there's a lot of motivation for that behavior. A lot of people will get into tracking macros and competing because of that eating disorder,
Absolutely. Yep. Absolutely. Cool, man. Well, yeah, so we'll cut it off there. I appreciate you doing that, coming on.
Dude, no problem, man. That's good.
I will repost this, and then you should be able to share it if you want when share the live. I'm not great at technology, but you should be able to reshare it.
Yeah, me neither. I'm on my way through.
Okay, well, yeah, just have her do it. She'll figure it.
Yeah, she's
cool,
the
man.
tech whiz in the house.
Oh, she'll figure it out easy then. No problem. Awesome. All right, man. Cool.
All right,
I appreciate it. Hope you have a great night.
You too. All right, guys.
We'll see you
later.